Hello everybody, once again, this is AikawaKazu and welcome to the Lv30 class overview featuring the Knight class. In this video I'll share about 3 main things about Knight at level 30 cap. Firstly, how Knights fare in PvP and its main skill rotation in boss, raids and party quests. A Spiral Elite footage will be used for reference as well. Secondly, how a Knight fares in PvP, and this includes showcasing some of my 1 vs 1 and 2 vs 2 regarding fights for my guild's run to Emerald rank, and this includes a basic stun lock combo for Knights, and credits to Ditzy for sharing them. He has been very helpful. Last but not least, I'll share about how you should gear your Knight, and hopefully this video will help you in deciding if you want to play the Knight class if you're new to PvP 2, and also shed some insights should you already play the Knight class and want to know more. So how does Knights fare in PvE for PvP 2? As you can see at the start, Knights are definitely great at mobbing and grinding. From the introductory footage that you saw earlier, you can definitely solo very well. Unfortunately, the amazing number of critical hits that you see is controlled via the triggering of your passive skill known as Counter. Counter gives you 100% critical rate for 5 seconds but can only trigger whenever you block as a Knight, and even then it is a chance to trigger when blocking. At level 7, you have 62% chance to trigger Counter whenever you block, which is why Knights are really very good at grinding large number of monsters, since your block chance will be pretty high due to the high number of attacks coming at you. However, when it comes to party quests, boss and raid bosses, you do not have that luxury, because most of the time bosses do not have skills that deal high number of hits, which means multiple hits in one attack, and when they do, the damage from those bosses will be too high for you to risk in tanking them. Not to mention that even with the best level 30 shield you can acquire right now, you can only have a 12.1% block chance. And currently there is no other way you can increase your block rate, which is quite sad for Knights, as Counter is one of the main reasons why Knights can be a very strong damage dealer in PvP 2. So what does this all mean? Well, you'll be amazing in grinding. You will not be so amazing when it comes to competing with top damage dealing classes like Berserkers, Wizards and Thieves in PvP 2 for party quests and raid bosses. Having cleared the last Jar, Mark 52 and attempting the Shadow Shaman Devorok level 30 10-man raids with my Knight, you are usually not the top 3 in the damage dealing charts should the other damage dealing classes have the same quality of gear as you do. Well, that being said, Knights can still do relatively decent single target damage, but just definitely not the cream of the crop at level 30 due to our low block rate at the moment. It's pretty much that you can't use your counter passive skill for your 100% critical rate for 5 seconds. However, in the future, with Shield Mastery, Knights can definitely increase their block rate by 15% at level 40 and 50 cap, and assuming that higher level shields give higher block rate, Knights should be able to trigger Counter more consistently compared to level 30. It is just not logical to risk your life taking a heavy or high damaging boss attack in raids and then only have 12.1% chance to block. So yeah, it's pretty sad for Knights in that aspect. Nevertheless, Knights do provide great utility in increasing the party's overall damage output with Shield Throw. Shield Throw decreases the affected target's defense by 6.5% at level 7 for 12 seconds. So bringing a Knight to a raid party is always useful for that particular reason. And therefore Knights, I would say, are still always in most, if not in the top 10 PvE clearing guilds in PvP 2 Korea right now. You always see a Knight in the first 10 teams that clear the hardest party quest, which is the Shadow Shaman Devorok right now. So with that, we move on to the Knight's single target skill rotation, which is pretty simple with the primary use of 3 skills. You'll start off with Shield Throw, which uses 6 SP. This will apply the debuff of the defense reduction, and then you follow up with 6 times of Million Sting, which is your level 30 skill. This will use up 90 SP, which will leave you with 4 to 6 SP depending on how much SP you regen during a period of time. Use 1 Cross Swing to regain 12 SP, and then 1 last Million Sting to end off your first rotation. By then, your Shield Throw defense reduction debuff should have around 4 seconds left, which means you can continue to regain SP with Cross Swing, and then reapply shield throw immediately once you see it about to fall off the boss. Follow up with Minion Sting until you run out of SP, and pretty much rinse and repeat until the boss dies. So it is really a very simple skill rotation for knights for single targets. The idea, however, behind a good or optimal skill rotation in Maple Story 2, if you're wondering for other classes, is all about being effective with your SP usage. In other words, I have already compared the SP consumption usage versus board damage of all knight skills to know that Minion Sting is the most SP effective overall, which is why it is your main damaging skill used in your skill rotation. For those who are wondering why Holy Strike isn't in the skill rotation, Holy Strike uses 30 SP and has 380% board damage at level 7, while Minion Sting uses only 15 SP and has 264% board damage. In other words, with one Holy Strike I can actually use 2 Minion Sting, which means 30 SP to do 428% board damage, which is obviously higher than Holy Strike. This is why Minion Sting is used over Holy Strike in a single target DPS rotation. You'll be able to see the skill rotation used here in the Spiral Elite solo footage right now.
이런. 물러서지 마라. 용서하지 않겠다. 성스러운 검을 받아라.
If you want to check out more night POV footage of raids, you can check out the Mark 52 raid video that I've uploaded with my knight. And with that, we will move on to PvP. At level 30, Knights right now are arguably one of the strongest PvP class at level 30 cap. If you look at the top 10 PvP guilds right now for Guild vs Guild Season 1, you will definitely see Knights in most if not all the matchups right now. Under the hands of a good user, Knights are very viable in all 3 categories of 1 vs 1, 2 vs 2 and 3 vs 3. So if you're a more PvP player and you like to use a melee class, Knight I think can be the class that you want to go for, even though Berserker can be another choice as well. But now I'll let you know why Knight is so strong. But before we go to that, know that almost every class can be good at PvP. It's just that some classes do not excel as well in 2 vs 2 or 3 vs 3 compared to a Knight. So far I can see that every class has a counter class, and that class counters the Knight class or any other class that you use to a certain extent, so there isn't really a perfect class for PvP, at least in 1 vs 1. So why are Knights so good in PvP? Knights are very good in locking down one target, and also good in sending up wombo combos in 2v2s and 3 vs 3s. The main reason behind that is because they have a skill called Tornado Slash, which pulls enemies affected towards the Knight. So for example, wizards have a skill that casts a cone of ice on the ground. Targets that stay in that cone of ice for 4 seconds will be frozen. Frozen targets cannot use potions to heal themselves. Basically, they're pretty much they cannot do anything. So Knights are very good to pull targets that are trying to escape the cone of ice back into the cone of ice, forcing them to be frozen, and then they can then be burst down by your teammates. So Knights are very good at setting it up. You can imagine Knights having what we call a mini black hole, and you can actually use Tornado Slash about 4 times. It has 18 SP usage at level 7, so Tornado Slash is very good for 2v2s and 3v3s for setting up, and it's also very good to lock down one target. So Knights also have an action skill called Charge, which gives them great mobility at the cost of energy points. So this allows the Knight class to actually be able to fight or stand a good chance against classes that kite a lot, like Rangers, Assassins, Wizards, Heavy Gunners. But that being said, usually in those matchups, if the range class or the range class user is good, the fights are usually very close. It's up to the player to decide who actually wins. But Knights are pretty tanky with high defense, and they do stand a good chance, and most of the time in other games Knights do not actually have a lot of mobility. But in Maple Story 2 with Charge, you can actually dash forward 3.4 meters. And not to mention that Charge can also be used to knock back targets. So for example, opponent have a priest, you want to push that priest away from its teammates to prevent their own weapon combo, and Knights can actually use Charge to push 1 or even 2 if you're good targets away from the team, so that your other teammates can lock down and finish off 1 or 2 opponents. So one thing you need to take note as a Knight is that in PvP, your main problem will be regaining SP during the fight itself, especially when fights become extended or becomes very long. So as an advice, do not ever forget to regain an SP with cross swing during fights, so that you can always remain viable in long fights, especially when, you know, a lot of Knights will try to do the wombo combo at the start using like 4 to 5 Tornado Slash, and they will fail, and then they will be out of SP, and then they'll see their teammates die while they're trying to chase a target to regain SP, and they cannot do so. So always be very mindful of your SP usage for Knights. And yeah, I think you will be able to do well. So let's move on to the very basic 1 vs 1 or the very basic stun lock rotation. And again, credits to Ditzy from Trio.tv forums for sharing them. So what you can do in a 1v1 situation, or in a situation where you want to lock down a target, you can charge to your target, you do Tornado Slash twice. This will bring your target close enough to you so that you'll be able to stun your target for, I believe, 1 second or 1.5 seconds of hit. But during that stun duration, regain your SP with 1 cross swing, just 1, and then do a Piercing Slash. So Piercing Slash is a skill that has a 33% stun chance at level 7. If you do not get a stun, you can either charge your opponent to push him further back. This is if you want to keep this target away from your teammates, or you can just resume jump slashing or back off depending on your matchup. So to deal with players that jump slash a lot, and you'll see this being used a lot in PvP, you can actually use Tornado Slash mid-air to force them to the ground and then do your stun lock before they retaliate or escape. This happens a lot in melee matchups and is of paramount importance to know against berserkers because they will be one of the most annoying jump slashing classes due to their high base damage with 2-hand weapons. I have seen berserkers jump slashing and winning a 1 versus 2 matchup, so I'm not joking here. So with this, check out some quick footage of my knight for my attempts at stun locking as well as some 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2.
Is the
assassin.
what the
Might be quite hard.
he bought up eh?
Double attack.
Oh, okay.
Go.
But he got no pot one.
Don't assume that.
이걸 막아낼 수 있을까?
He bought eh?
I said
Oh my god, I blocked that. Oh shit.
nice. 1.6.
Woo! Alright, let's move on to the last part for this overview video for the knight class. So we move on to how I would recommend one to gear a knight at level 30. So I emphasize at level 30 because at level 40 or 50 it is going to be very different, as the percentage of substats that you can get from gears are a lot higher. But right now, the primary substat you should go for in fact almost all the other classes will be physical defense penetration, and of course for wizards or priests you should go for magical defense penetration. Currently I have 19.4% on my knights, as you can see here, and this is what makes your attacks very strong against bosses and raids. You will see an exponential increase in damage once you stack a lot of physical defense penetration, or in the case of wizards and priests, magical attack, or rather magical defense penetration. So you'll be able to get these from your weapons. I got 5.4% of my shield, 5.4% of my sword, and your gloves, which is 5.4% as well. These are the Guild vs Guild PvP Valor gear, which you can actually acquire every time you win a PvP fight for the Guild vs Guild PvP. It is the reddish orange coin, 170 out of /1500 right now. So currently my knight is using full Valor or PvP gear, which is currently arguably the best gears that you can get right now for level 30 cap. So you will eventually get this when Guild vs Guild is open for you, when you're playing MapleStory 2 in other services, or if you're watching this video right now, these gears will be obsolete once level 40 cap is out, but do know that physical defense penetration is what you want to go for. The second substat you should go for will be one of these three, which is close range damage increase, which is this one. I have 5.5%. Defense penetration, I currently have 1%. Or you can go for boss damage increase, which I don't have. It's this little very long Korean letters here. So this is one of the three secondary or second substat that you want to focus on. And take note that defense penetration, which is this one, and physical defense penetration is actually two different stats. So yeah, I do not know how they actually function. Maybe defense penetration is for both, but yeah, they exist, so you can actually stack more penetration, if you know what I mean. But many of you ask, Kazu, why are you not prioritizing on critical damage? Critical damage is this 250 right here. So for critical damage and critical rate, they do not actually tell you the percentage. Like, we do not know how much critical rate you have with 63 critical rate stat or critical hit stat. You do not know how much does 250 critical damage stat do for you. I mean, you can guess to see how much more damage you do when you crit, but you do not actually know the exact value here. But the reason why we don't go for critical damage is because, very simple, right now it is not possible for knights to be able to consistently trigger your counter passive skill in the high level, or rather the level 30 10-man raids. The only one you're able to do so is the level 28 Elenia party quest, and that is pretty much the only one. So it's not worth to go for critical damage or critical rate stat. And for critical rates, the reason why you don't go for it is because you can go for full critical rate gear. As you can see, I have plus 18, and I know thieves, heavy gunners, rangers, and assassins who have much higher base critical hit stat, they can go over 100 when they actually stack critical hit stats. So knights, unfortunately, we are strength based. As you can see, 215 strength. We do not have very high critical hit stat, so no point going for critical hit stat unless that is the only one that you can get. There are certain accessories that cannot get any other stats aside from that, so yeah, you can actually go for that as a last option. But maybe you can take my advice to go for either of the three as mentioned: close range damage increase, defense penetration, and boss damage increase. So there's one more substat that I have not tested, which is the attack speed increase substat, which might be useful for knights, since we spend a lot of time regaining SP with cross swing. So if your cross swing animation or attack speed is increased, you can actually regain SP faster, and also maybe your million sting attack will be faster as well, which allows you to do more damage over a same period of time compared to without attack speed increase. So I'll be testing that in the future when I try to get stacked with attack speed, but currently I will not be able to test that. So I'll be sharing the results once it's done, but you will not go wrong with physical defense penetration and the other secondary substats that I mentioned. So I guess that should be it. If you have any other further questions, or rather, should you have any further questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'll also be doing an overview video on Berserker and Priest, since I have both of those classes at level 30. If you enjoyed this video, help me out by stomping the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want more MapleStory 2 videos, and if you can, subscribing to my Hitbox.tv streaming channel will be really great in supporting what I do. Thanks for watching once again, God bless, and I'll see you guys and girls next time. Goodbye everyone, goodbye.
반가워.